Hi everybody, my name is Q and welcome back to my tapes. As an automaton, as an avatar and a robot, I don't dream of labor. I don't have a dream job either. I also can't replace you. All jokes aside, I think I'm gonna break this up in three. Starting with I don't have a dream job. I'm gonna speak facetiously as a robot, but also just for real, as Q. I'm gonna speak for real. And then I also kind of want to get into something that I've been hearing a lot about. Oh, well, robots are gonna replace us, and obviously they use robots as a way to threaten the lower socioeconomic class, which the second part is true. The first part is not. Robots aren't going to be replacing anybody anytime soon. And actually, I will kind of get into how some of these self-driving cars or self-driving, robots actually work as somebody who may or may not be in the tech space. Because it's like society and these people, these means to manufacturers capitalize, no pun intended, on the fear and lack of knowledge and accessibility to information of poor people to essentially spread lies in order to continue to force them back into exploitative work environments. So if that's anything you want to listen to, then keep on watching. Okay, so I kind of want to start with this as Q. I don't have a dream job. I don't have a dream job. And why does that matter in the context of this kind of robot tone that I'm facetiously take? Obviously, I'm not. I am an avatar though. How do you like my shirt? Hey. But yeah, I don't have a dream job. Okay. I don't, and you know what? These thoughts are rapidly changing. So I think I'm going to take this sentence with this approach. I believe that I am more than what I do outside of my work, if that makes sense. I believe my work is not my personality. It's not my actual life. It's just the stuff that I do that I might find meaningful in some professional respects, but for the most part is insignificant. I believe that most people don't have personalities. I feel like most people don't have a life. And I think that that's due to a couple of things. One of which I feel social media, we live online. Internet usage has exponentially increased. And not just in the past year, but just people are on their phones. And it's not just Gen Z people, because I'm Gen Z. And some people like to make us out to be the scapegoat. Meanwhile, we didn't come up with all this tech, so y'all need to start putting a mirror to the face. Because people have a lot of stuff to say. Whatever, it's not relevant. But I feel like a lot of people lack personality. They lack feeling. They lack kind of the ability to be in relationships. And I think it's partially due to the way society is set up, of the fear of if you don't progress, you die. Literally, if you don't get into this school, if you don't study these books, you will literally not get access to an institution, which PS, they remove access from you purposefully. It wasn't by accident. It's not pull yourself up by your bootstraps type of thing, but we know that. But yeah, you don't study, you don't get this good amount of, you don't get this score on the ACT. You can't get into this school. You don't do all this extracurricular shit. You don't work at the NSF. You don't have any rich friends that can help you work on some startup over the summer to get you into this one college. Because if you don't get into this one college, you won't get access to certain types of recruiters. You won't get access to certain types of resources. And then you get out, you don't get access to certain types of jobs. In that literal pipeline, it's not just work. It's not just people don't have a personality because of work, but it's the overall labor, I feel, of society, the laborious stress of society, the laborious structures of society don't allow people to deviate on purpose. So I feel in the beginning, I felt I was maybe going to take this tone, oh, I blame people for not having lives outside of work, which we'll get to. But no, it's much more complex than that. Because essentially what I'm trying to say is people don't have lives because of the way capitalism and exploitation and white supremacy have completely infiltrated its way into every manner of people's lives, which is why I started with a school example, because people don't really understand that pipeline. Which brings me to the next point about why don't people have interactions with people naturally? Why do young people so addicted to the internet? Y'all are addicted to. Y'all are addicted too, and y'all made it. So, you know, well, not you all, but some of you. I mean, come on. If the boot fits, if the boot doesn't fit, like, you know which group you need to sort yourself into. But that kind of leads me to my next point. After kind of having all the stress of doing this sort of crap you do in school, you get to college, you struggle through college, you know, you have to now start working. If I have to work 2 times as hard, can you imagine like what it means if I have to get into certain positions, if that's even possible, which we've acknowledged. Hashtag you can't pull yourself up by your bootstraps. If people are like, we don't want you working here because you're not a culture fit. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter. But regardless, fine, let's go along that trail. After the stress of kind of doing that, let's say I work 2 times as hard naturally. Now I have to work like another 2 times. I have to now work like 4 times as hard to be stable in any way. So the only escape that I have is like my phone. The only escape that I have are the apps that can take me out of my reality. What the hell do you expect us to do? You know? Which is why I think I had a serious discussion with a friend of mine, and like, this is like a really personal conversation. And obviously I'm not going to be talking about what was so personal about it, but I think what was so heartfelt was because I grew closer to this person because of it. Whereas where I finally told somebody my age, like, I was just like, bro, I don't give a shit about any of this. Like, I don't care. Like, there are a few things that I really care about, which is why I think I talk about the creator, like the business of being like a creative or an artist so much, because I genuinely, or like music industry, because like I love music. I love the way that I feel like Black people are able to make culture, whether or not they're ethnically Black American or like of another ethnicity. Like I love like the creativity, and I think it just made me so mad. It's just like people are like coming up with this work like out of like tears and blood, and like, you're stealing this. You're a thief. Like, and I think it just made me so frustrated, which is why I started to talk more and more about like kind of businessy stuff and start to kind of delve into that in my like kind of professional / like business venture life, because I'm just like, I kind of want to just make something. Like, why do you have to be exploited? Now you can't even express yourself and make all these jokes and just be natural with it without people exploiting that too. People exploiting your joy. And so that's why, obviously, if you wonder, like, why do I kind of switch up between content, between like business and kind of slightly commentary and like tech and innovation and just kind of solution, like, and then stuff like this, that's the reason why. Because it's just like, I kind of want to see how can I propose solutions, or how can I help you in those ways, you know? And so that's kind of close to my heart. But like in terms of like the social media thing, it's like, well, what do you expect us to do? Like, of course I want to lose myself. Of course now I want to lose myself in the ways that I engage online. Like, I don't want to think about anything. And so I really connected with this friend about the idea of like, wow, I don't really care. I don't really care. And it's starting to become a more and more bitter taste in my mouth when people try me. Like, no, I don't want to be paid under a certain amount of money. Like, listen. And obviously it's like, some people do not have the access to walk away. Some people don't have the access to walk away. And I'm not even saying I do, but I'm just saying that I was able to get that off of my chest and just tell somebody who, for all intents and purposes, this person was also like, go. You have to do this. You have to get this sort of grades. You have to get into this sort of school. Like, you have to. There's no other choice. Even though there are things that are clearly out of our control, which I've already acknowledged. Which brings me to the kind of cusp of some things. You know, I started with, you don't have a personality. That is all to say that I don't blame you. But it also kind of comes to this thing where it's like, once people are acknowledging like, wow, I don't have a life outside of this, I don't know who I am outside of the work that I do, I don't want to say it becomes worse, but like, the only way I'm able to explain the way that I feel at this moment in time is becoming aware to things that I feel like I wasn't supposed to become like aware. So it's like, for example, it's just like waking up from like a dream, and now you like realize like, oh my God, I'm in a cage and I can't escape. Which is why sometimes I'm like, I can't even blame people for not really having like, I can't even blame people for not having a life. Because it's like, when you become like aware of some of this, when you become like too aware of the sort of stuff happening to you that you don't have the power to change, it's depressing. It's like shocking. It kind of reminds me of like The Matrix. It's like, yeah, like, well, listen, I'm not about to quote this movie correctly. I barely watched this movie. This movie came out before I was born. But it's just like, if I'm recalling this correctly, it's like when Neo was like, oh my God, I'm living like in a matrix. I'm living like in a simulation right now. But what if he never like broke out of it? What if he never rebelled against it? He was just going to be aware that he saw all these things everywhere. He was just going to see all of the things wrong everywhere, and he was just never going to do anything about it. That's depressing. That's depressing. So as much as I don't dream of labor and I don't really have a job, it's the best way I can settle the first part of this video is I also don't want to think too much about it. I don't know how to explain it. I don't want to think too much about it. And I obviously do. And when I do, I don't blame myself for kind of having an escape. Now, in terms of the personality thing, I do have a personality. After I had the talk with the friend, I started to reevaluate deeply. And I had already done this before, which is why I feel like I had kind of gotten consequences societally in like the society that I was, because I was just like, this is wrong. I felt like I was punished for not caring. I felt like I was reprimanded in certain ways for calling people out. It's like, okay, fine. I'm forced to do this anyways, but fuck you. Like, I don't really want to do this, and I have to because I don't have a choice. But now I'm aware, and I'm telling you, like, fuck off. Which is why some people are like, oh, why are Gen Z people so depressed? And I'm like, a lot of Gen Z people have so much more access to information quicker, more efficiently than it would have been for people who are older. And so it's like, you are younger people who don't have authority. You don't have power. You don't have the capital either. You know what I mean? And so it's like, you are now aware of things that you can't change. And it's so sad. It's so sad. So I don't really blame people for kind of getting lost in things that aren't real, like social media. Like, I don't, like me. If you get lost in me, come closer, come closer. But yeah, I don't blame people for getting lost in things that aren't real in order to cope. Which brings me to kind of the next thing. Speaking of coping and just kind of false fallacies, I can't replace you. Of course, I'm not a robot. But let's say machines can't replace people. And I'll kind of get into briefly why that is. And actually, I'll end off because I don't want this video to be too long. Robots can't actually replace people as easily as people think. And I'm just going to start with the tech that's already out there. Okay, robots cannot replace human beings, and they actually don't. Let's take driving cars for an example. People do not know this, like Uber, like all these, like a lot of these like self-driving cars, like even like some of these like machine learning companies that are like, oh, you know, we sort data, you know, we arrange all this data into certain like categories, and humans, like we arrange human behavior into like data buckets, and like, you know, all this sort of stuff that they say, which is why I'm just like, some of these companies are for real, like some of the shit is like money laundering. I like keep saying it, but like nobody allegedly, okay, fine, whatever, but allegedly. But like, take self-driving cars for an example. Do people know that these companies have to exploit the global south and their labor, and also labor in like Africa, black people obviously in Africa, to power these self-driving vehicles? Do people know this? Please raise your hand if you know this, and then put like, I don't know, an emoji face or like a fruit if you didn't know this. Like a cherry or a strawberry or a banana. Like, do you know this? Do you know that like there are actual people sitting in like warehouses in Guatemala and Brazil and like probably some factory in like Nigeria, manually controlling how some of these trucks or cars move on the road, and that this is actually not completely controlled by a machine? Do people know this? Do people know that like without this human factor? So it's okay. So just in case you haven't caught on yet, it is self-driving because it's not driven by you. It's not self-driven because there's actual machine learning that can actually drive this car or truck completely on the road. The same thing goes with like machine learning companies that do like data sorting. Do people not know that like what it does is they take all the data, compress them, sort them into buckets, and then a human being literally has to go in and tag the data manually. And so obviously when the founders in Silicon Valley can no longer do it with their first customer, guess who they outsource that type of work to? Guess. They outsource it to people in Africa and people in Guatemala and Brazil and El Salvador, like all these other global South companies. Look it up. When we talk about robots that will cook food, no, they can't. Very, very dangerous. Actually, in fact, with some of these robots that do some of these like quote unquote cooking, like, and you see these kind of demos where they like make a cocktail or flip a pancake. Like, do you know how much human supervision has to go into that? Super dangerous. It is actually more important to just have a line cook. In fact, line cooks, obviously, if you have never worked in like a restaurant environment, line cooks are actually what can make or break your restaurant. If you don't have a line cook or your line cooks quits, your restaurant is done. Your restaurant is done. The business is over. The business is over. Same thing with cashiers. There are so many issues, like even with like self-checkout, it's not as efficient as you guys think. That's why they have to have like 2 or 3 people on standby in a CVS and a Walmart and a Target. Like they literally have to have a small core team in checkout just for self-checkout. Because the technology is not that good. It's not able to read sometimes, glitching hands. Sometimes it doesn't read the sticker barcodes off of fruit. Produce doesn't weigh things properly, which is why sometimes you see these jokes about people make about how they bought an Apple and came out of Walmart with like a TV or a PS4. The technology that these technocrats, capitalists, exploiter people utilize to scare us, it is a fallacy. Like it's not real. Robots can't replace y'all. I can't replace you. I can't replace you. Even things like voicemail, even things like people trying to replace like the thing with like voice, like some are really good. Some companies have gotten really good, but like they easily mess up. People don't talk like this. What people don't talk like this? It's like there was this one commercial. I don't know if you guys remember that one like Google commercial that they did in combination with like the NFL, I think. And like Amazon and like Siri. I think it might have been like Apple, but it was about how Black people were trying to say, yo, Google. And the engineer in the commercial was like, oh, we can't do that yet. We can't do that. They don't know how to say that. They don't know what that means. Like even things like simple voice commands of repeating the same greetings that are commonly used aren't even properly processed. Like they it's not as far as you guys think. And that's what I'm going to say. And it'll never really be as far as you guys think. It'll literally take like 300 years. But with the way the environment is going, you see, another thing I'm aware about, I don't want this to be a depressing. With the way the environment is going, we're going to have to be fighting over oxygen bottles. So that's all I'm going to say. I don't know if we're going to make it to 300 years. As though it wasn't emphasized enough. So I just wanted to kind of say that, people want to talk to human beings. Human beings are actually a lot more efficient, which is why they still need human labor. So if they have to scare you, if they have to set up, listen, like some of these like demo videos that you guys see aren't even real. Like the robots didn't even move. Obviously not. I'm not talking about like Boston Dynamics or that hellscape of a company. I'm not talking about them. But like some people literally have to go to like Adobe After Effects and do like motion effect design to make objects move as though they're moving just for demo reels, just for videos. Like they're not even like some of these things aren't even real. Okay, and that's where I'm going to stop. I really want to hear you guys' thoughts on this. I don't dream as labor. I don't blame people who they have jobs. They're kind of being lost in like the kind of flow of society. I kind of want to talk about the laying flat movement, but I didn't really have time for it. I didn't really know if you guys want to see like longer videos. So let me know if you want to talk about, if you want me to talk about this. And the last thing, robots can't replace y'all. Automatons cannot replace you guys. Like robots are nowhere near that. And actually like they have no incentive. Like if they can continue exploiting the global South and all these brown and Black people in these developing world countries, why would they want to? Why? they're used to exploiting labor anyway. So why, if it's working, if they can get away with that lie and most consumers don't know that there are people in like Guatemala and like somewhere probably in like Lagos, like controlling vehicles on the road, then why do they need to care? If they like, consumers don't know, so who cares? So that's been another one of my tapes. I really would love to hear your thoughts. I guess I could have talked more about how I don't really dream of a job, but I can pick this up. You know what I mean? I can pick this up in another tape. I have a lot of thoughts on this. I've been thinking about this for years. So ever since I was a kid, I'm like for years. But yeah, I'm Q. This has been another one of my tapes, and thank you so much for watching. Bye.